welcome to the Gadget Inspectors, your home for angry tech talk and a little bit of news. I'm one of your co-hosts, Mr. Geoff Stevens, and I've got with me Mr. David Feldman
Hey, everybody.
and Mr. Michael Fritz.
Hello.
Lurking off in the background, who may or may not pop up from time to time, Mr. Todd Hardin, who is dead at the moment. We've got a great show for you tonight, guys. If you're not already a subscriber, you can find us on our website at rantymedia.com. All you have to do is hover over listen now, where you find this podcast as well as our 4 other fine podcasts. We've got Press Start Gaming, The Real Reporters, Undercoverage, and Rant On. So thanks again, guys, for joining us tonight. We've got a pretty good show, I think. So let's delve right into it. We've got some news. Android P developer preview has just been released. It's not known when this is going to be coming out yet, but what we do know is that Google is unfortunately saying we're going to kill off support for a few devices. Michael has a Nexus 6P at the moment. I'm sorry.
Indeed.
Yeah, Nexus 6P. Unfortunately, that's not getting this new version of Android.
I mean, it's not getting the update I got today?
The Android P version?
I don't think it was Android P.
No, security updates are different.
Yeah, I know. I was just messing with you.
Oh, all right. Well, fine. This isn't completely unheard of. They only said that originally they were going to offer 2 years of support for Android devices for new releases. I have the Pixel XL that's supported for at least this go around. I imagine by the next version of Android that won't be supported. Because it'll be 2 years old at that point. But
Geoff, I got a quick question.
yeah.
Do you think that's because they're trying to force people to upgrade to newer devices?
No. Unfortunately, when I was reading about it, it's because Qualcomm, the major telecom provider for a lot of North America's phones, specifically the radios and such that go in there, they're saying that they can only support it for 2 years. So by them basically releasing a new version of Android, they just don't want to bother with supporting the old device drivers.
Right. In other words,
moving
they can't support. Google won't be able to support the hardware. So why
Right.
support the software when you can't take advantage of? They go hand in hand. If you can't update the drivers, you can't really do a whole lot with the software.
Right. Now, that's not to say that they won't extend that going forward, but like as of right now, that's what it is. And I think that's honestly something that Apple has actually done a little bit better than is because they can control kind of the flow of hardware, that they can control the software updates for far longer. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. So, moving on, we've got very popular. Normally, this would be under Real Reporters, but we're throwing this under this for a very specific reason. Movie Pass. It's a very popular subscription service. Allows you to go to movie theaters for $10 a month and watch unlimited movies. I think it's like one per day or something like that. It's gotten a lot of flack from the movie industry, but it's also getting a lot of flack from people in general because apparently they've been tracking you on the way back home from the movie theater. This is not like a source giving us this information. This is direct from the CEO, unfortunately. So he's basically like, hey, we basically track you all the way from home. And honestly, to me, that sounds like it could also mean that they're tracking you all the time, because how would they know otherwise? How would you know otherwise? But
yeah.
Well, now, Geoff, I do know that with Apple, I don't know if it's the same thing with Google or Android, you can determine when location services is being used.
Yeah.
So like when you can force it to be always on, or you can make it where you can it only be on during the use of the app.
Now, little interruption. The app has to be open and location services has to be on to get the ticket. So in theory, if you're opening the app while you're heading that way, it would be tracking you the entire time. I don't think MoviePass gives you the option to have the when using only thing on, by the way.
Okay.
Right. Now, they did actually update the iOS to remove the unused location tracking features today. So I don't know if they've rectified that, but to me, um, they have no business doing that. I understand why location services is necessary. Obviously, they won't know which theaters to ping for tickets, but that's a little scary that they're like tracking you on the way home.
Well,
Obviously,
it's also
I
more
mean-
information for them in terms of what consumers do, because it's actually important data, because it helps companies decide where they want to put their next theater.
true.
Because let's say you're willing to go.
I don't think it
X
has
amount of
anything to do with
miles.
where they're going to put another theater.
I think it does, because
They don't, because they don't care how far you're driving to go to the movies. If you have Movie Pass, you're probably seeing a lot of movies.
Hello, another
What?
interruption. Movie Pass is now involved in making movies as well and distributing movies. You know what's
Yep.
really good data? Knowing what theater people go to and what stuff around it.
Right,
Might
and what
be a good reason.
and not
Yeah.
only that, but they'll usually determine what theater they're watching and what features are available in those theaters that attract people. So if people are more willing to pay the extra $5 for, let's say, a bigger screen with better sound, then why would a company not want that information, so that way they can keep going in the direction that they're going, or may they need to readjust it?
I mean, you're not wrong. I don't know. I just I
I'm thinking
actually-
I'm thinking about it from a business perspective,
Sure.
not necessarily consumer everyday
No,
person
right. No,
perspective.
I understand what you're saying. But what I'm saying is they get the data on what you're seeing and like what version just by the tickets that you purchase, because they're the ones paying for the tickets.
right.
So they don't have to track your location to tell which theater you're going to, because guess what? They have to pay for the ticket. They get the invoice.
Not only that, but it would actually give you more information.
Well, not only that, but think about it. What do people do usually before they go to a movie?
They eat dinner.
Exactly. So it also helps a lot of these theaters who now host dinners and who have snacks and stuff like that. This is where most of their money comes from. So if a theater knows that, hey, Mexican is super popular in this area, they would probably open up more Mexican options, Mexican food options, so that people would more likely spend more money in the theaters. So there's a lot of information that you can get from that data.
Well, that's not untrue. So, moving on though to our final news topic. Kelly Burger over the past weekend actually had a new employee installed. It's called the Miso Robotics, and his name is Flippy. And his only job is to flip hamburger patties. Unfortunately, they had to pull him off the line, not because he was doing bad, but because they actually had to upgrade him because he was doing so well. The demand was just so hot for him.
So he was doing too well.
He was doing too well. He was producing patties way too quickly. So
Is it that he was producing patties too quickly, or he was drawing in too many people because they wanted robotically
I think
flipped
a
burgers?
little of column A and a little column B.
Because if he was flipping too many burgers, then they wouldn't have to upgrade him.
Right.
They would have to either tune him down or
They probably downgraded him. I don't think they upgraded him.
I think what Geoff is saying is he was a hit because all the burgers were basically perfectly done.
Right.
Or, people wanted robotically flipped burgers because, it's fucking robotically flipped burgers,
I mean, this isn't
have
an
'em.
unheard of thing. I know in Japan, for instance, they're really big on doing like robot served rice dishes and
Yeah.
things of that nature. And I think there's actually a specific robot that does like rice patties or something. I can't remember exactly, but he does like the bento boxes.
But
and
okay,
such.
so the $15 an hour thing that people were trying to go for with McDonald's is starting to look a little bleak.
Oh,
Right.
I mean, this is not a new thing. This is actually why this bleeds into our major topic. Is basically, from the way I see it, robots have been steadily creeping into our lives in a more predominant way. Not necessarily recently, but over several years. I'm talking more about production lines and like auto facilities and things like that, or just general factories. You have assembly lines full of robots that are replacing things a human did, 30, 40 years ago,
Well,
exclusively.
yeah, they have to.
And, unfortunately, if you're going to spend, let's say the flipping robot burger costs the company, $30,000 or something exorbitant.
Like 30,000 would be on the low end, but
30,000 would be on the low end.
Right, but that's just like the salary of 2 people, which
Right,
that
that's-
If
robot
that.
can produce like 5 people's jobs. So it's a win for the company.
It's a win for the company because the only time that robot would take a sick day, so to speak, is if some maintenance needs to be done on, some parts.
Right, which then a specialist would come out. They get paid like $400 an hour, and they fix the thing, and then they go back to work.
Right.
Right.
But likely, if you're buying a robot like that, it's going to come with some kind of service contract.
Not only that, though, the likelihood of that employee making it to work, just a human employee not getting sick, not making it to work, missing their, bus, missing not their car breaking down or something like that, is much higher than the likelihood that he's not going to be able to make it to work because he's at work 24/7.
So what's the question, Geoff?
My question to you both is, robots are obviously becoming more and more prevalent. Would you own a robot in your own home? And I'm talking full Android in your house doing whatever you want it to do.
You're talking like iRobot.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm assuming you're talking about a robot that will take care of more menial tasks like, wipe the counter, do the dishes, things like that.
Whatever you want, as so long as it's not killing someone. Yes, I'm talking about more seedy aspects of your life.
Sex. Got it. I'll say it, Geoff. Sex. Yes, yes, listeners, we have debased ourselves to the sex robots. No, but seriously.
Oh, hold on. Random tangent.
Uh-oh.
Random tangent. I know
Geoff,
this isn't a gaming.
are you about
this
to
isn't the
reveal
gaming
something?
podcast, but there's a game coming out
Oh.
that's releasing a limited edition. It's like a collector's edition, and they've paired with a sex doll company.
Awkward.
No one knows what it is, but their sex dolls start at like $30,000, so it's not a. It obviously isn't going to be that level of sophistication in this collector's edition, but just random tangents since we're talking about sex toys and such.
Wait, the same people that made Limbo are doing this?
I think
Yeah,
so. I
it is.
can't. It is, yeah, but they have some sort of secret partnership with them, and they're not revealing what it is yet.
I Am 8-Bit / Playdead / Real Doll are collaborating on a mysterious collector's edition for Inside,
Yeah,
which Inside's a very fucked up game, so keep that in mind.
I mean, a lot of people have just speculated it's a
Fleshlight?
fleshlight or something like that.
$375.
That like connects to the game and stimulates you in some way.
That is weird.
I've never understood the appeal.
We
I'll be
will put
honest
that
with
in
you.
the show notes for everybody if they want.
Yes, peruse our show notes. Learn about
David,
more
you're awfully
about sex
quiet. Are you
toys.
like pre-ordering already?
Maybe.
He's just like, yes.
I love this.
I am
limited
actually
time
the
release.
least likely of the 4 of us to be pre-ordering. Cough, Todd, cough.
What?
For one, it's not a pre-order. The game's been out for years.
Oh, really?
Inside has been out for like a year and a half.
Yeah, this is just a particular collector's edition
Yeah,
that's coming
so
out.
it says limited release. Definitely includes Inside on PS4. Also includes other stuff.
Yeah, I liked how they phrased that. They're like, definitely includes a PlayStation 4 copy of Inside. You're just like, really? I'm intrigued.
I'm not. That's scary. Bye.
So back to the question.
Yeah, would you own one?
I would.
Hell yeah.
So it wouldn't creep you out that there's something in your house that's always watching,
Nope.
always listening.
I mean, Geoff, you have a cell phone. It's always listening.
Yeah, but you still don't think it would be creepy like to have something that could physically attack you or do anything like that?
Geoff, you watch too many damn horror movies.
you really do.
Sci-fi horror movies.
I'm just saying.
Like,
I'm just
one,
posing the.
I
I'm
don't
just
think we're
posing the
anywhere
question to
near
you.
the point where something would be able to attack people, without like waiting for them to be asleep, and like it's not going to attack people when they're.
I don't know.
I
Boston
don't know.
Dynamics. That thing can open fucking doors now.
Oh boy, yeah, I could come get you. And it's gonna. I mean, like, what kind of weapon was on that? It's gonna give you a purple nurple from hell.
Hey, I mean, I'm just saying we're actively developing robots that can go over any terrain. Can
Better
open
get a higher
doors.
bed, Geoff. Keep those robotic dogs on the floor.
My bed's pretty high right now. Actually, I'm very chuffed that the bed is so high.
All right, so let's really bring it down to robots in our houses. Why would you feel that's an issue, Geoff?
Oh, I mean, you hear all the time that there's, a company that's, I mean, obviously we just saw MoviePass. There's companies all the time that are spying on you,
Yeah.
doing all sorts of things. I'm just saying, you're bringing this thing into a more intimate window in your life. Obviously, we have Alexa that's always listening. We have Google Home that's always listening. Even our phones have, Siri, various assistants that are always listening. But for the most part, there's not really a visual input unless you have something like, I don't know, the Amazon Show or whatever it's called.
Or you have
So-
like the connected Nest cameras.
I don't have those.
I thought you had a camera in your house.
I do have a camera in my house, but it's not the Nest. It's not hooked up to a cloud service.
Oh, okay. What's it connected to?
All local storage.
So let's.
Is it
I'm
on your
curious.
It is on
what
my
are you
network.
doing in your house,
Okay, then
Geoff,
it's
that you
network
need to be
connected.
so secretive?
Oh, I have a 13-year-old kid that walks my dog.
Ah, that's
So-
even weirder.
No, I mean,
What's weird about that? That's like the American dream, David.
I mean,
You pay the kid down the street to walk your dog during the day while you're out.
Pay
And you
him
support the kid, and he can, support whatever habit he has.
pay $20
He's bad weed.
every couple weeks.
$20 every 2 weeks. Damn.
Yeah. That's what he agreed to. I didn't ask. I was just like, "Are you sure you don't want more?" He's like, "No, this is what I want to get paid." And I was like, "Okay."
So let's talk about it. You guys mentioned that more and more things are listening into us. Things like that. You're also talking about something pretty far in the future. So I'm thinking like 20, 30 years, there would be more commonplace. By that point, society would have shifted to the point where you're not so worried about the tin hat issues with government spying on you, everything like that, because you're used to it at that point. More than likely at that point in time, you're going to have things like embedded chips in your clothes and stuff that have sensors that will relay information to your insurance company about your unhealthy habits, and your premiums will go up. Things like that are going to be more and more commonplace as we as a society and we as people decide we don't want to deal with the smaller day-to-day stuff, and want to try to concentrate on bigger things and more advanced level things that we possibly can't imagine right now. 10, 20 years ago, people used to sit there and do gas for you because and then the invention of the self-service pump came out.
Up until a couple months ago, people did gas for you in Oregon.
Right. And they were the very last people that still did that. The rest of the world was like, I can self-service it myself. So, it's getting to the point where, house chores are becoming less and less likely to be done by people and more likely done by robots, such as little, I can't remember. Geoff, what do you have? I can't remember the name of it.
It's not an iRobot, but it's called Eufy. It's very similar.
But it's similar. Okay, so but even then, it's a robotic sweeper that comes around your house and vacuums and sweeps that you normally wouldn't have to do unless there's a big spill immediately.
Not very
But
well.
and that's all that is just a more complex iRobot that eventually will come out and take care of things that you wouldn't have to anymore.
Well, but don't you fear also that it'll? I'm just gonna say it, take away jobs.
No,
Cleaning your own
I mean,
house?
it will take away jobs. I mean,
No,
just
I'm
like
talking about more so in the general workplace. Because if you're
Yeah.
going to have them in your home, they're going to
Honestly,
be in the workplace too.
well, yeah, I think that they're going to take away the menial tasks, yes, and it's going to reduce the need for jobs like that, but it's going to force people to become a better, like,
To
they're
become
going to
better
replace the
skilled
jobs.
employees.
They're going to replace the jobs of people that literally have zero skills and don't want to have skills.
I mean, you got to think about different industries right now that are going through this. And you know what? I'll even bring a more broad example right now. Our generation grew up with PowerPoint and Word and Excel, and it's pretty easy, common stuff for us. There's a certain level of common knowledge, most of us in our generation, that can operate these programs. But if you go one generation above us, like 10 years, it's a struggle for them. And so they get people that are like our generation that can do those things. And that has become more of like an entry level job or entry level skill, to the point where, it's not that uncommon for people to know how to do it.
Right.
So what I'm trying to point at essentially is, as those more, labor intensive jobs go away and robots take care of them, people will find new jobs and new skills that that are more, again, commonplace for them, in place of that. So people who, will write up documents and stuff like that, versus what a computer can do, or versus what a robot can do, would be more of like a, like a minimum wage job, uh versus, what we have now, which is flipping burgers.
Right.
So it just depends on, as progress grows, long story short, as progress happens, newer and newer jobs will open up, and newer menial skills jobs will create themselves as, society shifts over. Unfortunately, there will always be people that will fight against it and go against it and refuse to change. Perfect example, the coal mining industry. The coal mining industry died years ago, but there's still a huge group of people that still refuse to believe that and still want clean coal, whatever that is.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but they ain't coming back.
Right. And that's just the thing, though. Eventually, and I hate to say this because I'm such a fan of Tesla, but I'm pretty sure Tesla will eventually go by the wayside, just because, lithium ion batteries have a lifespan, and they're not as easy to utilize and take care of, and they have their limitations. But
I mean, that only means that they're selling, they could sell more cars, because the people that they're selling Teslas to tend to upgrade their cars pretty often.
Right. No, but what I'm trying to say is that what it is it's a spark in the industry of changing over from fossil fuels.
Yeah.
More than likely, fossil fuels are going to go by the wayside. So is the gas and oil industry. But a new industry will take its place, which is going to be more of like hydrogen production and those kind of industries, where it's a lot easier to refill your cars and uses something similar to gas, but it's a lot more eco-friendly, and it's also going to be a lot easier for people to refill or recharge or whatever you want to call it, versus, say, a lithium ion battery, which only has, it has slow charge, it has slow reusable times, versus some other technology that's going to be out there that will be much more commonplace in a few years.
Yeah, I mean, to speak to Tesla though, I actually think they would be getting in the robot game at some point.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I
but what
they
I'm talking
already
about
are.
more specifically is cars, and the fact that, they sparked a revolution, they sparked change, but it's not going to be the end all be all. As much as I hate to say that, because I really wish it was, but like I said, the limitations of the technology that they're utilizing right now is what's going to force change into a better and more advanced technology. Like I said, like hydrogen or something similar to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're developing AI systems though, so I mean, I would assume
They might end up moving into an industry of not necessarily producing cars, but producing the robotics and the technology and the operating systems for these newer generation cars that will eventually come out.
yeah, I could see that. I don't know. It's just something interesting, concept. Especially, we have Westworld coming back later on in April, and we had a discussion about Westworld's technology a while back, to where you're going to have these advanced AI systems. And I hate to say it, you guys keep saying, "Oh, well, you've been watching too many horror shows," but like that's just kind of the common reoccurring theme is that these systems can be hacked, and these systems can necessarily be overridden to do harm.
You're right.
It's just one of those things where, like, I personally, I don't even like mannequins that much. Like, it's just, they kind of creep me out a little bit.
So Geoff is scared of the movie iRobot. Is effectively where we've reached.
I mean, I love that movie a lot. It's one of my guilty pleasures, I guess you could say, because like it was a fucking great movie. But like the Wall of Three, there's loopholes.
I got a question for you, Geoff.
Uh-huh.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have an essential kind of like eeriness or fear of ghosts?
I wouldn't say like fear. I've never encountered one. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
Let me put it this way. I've been in situations where I've felt uneasy about something. It just makes the back of your, the hairs on the back of your head poke up. But I've never I don't know. I've never been so creeped out by a situation. I'm just like, oh, there's a fucking ghost around. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, what I was trying to get at is, humans, we tend to fear the unknown, and and as technology advances and we create things like robots that are more and more like our image. It's an unknown. There's a scare factor in it, and that's part of it. People don't know what ghosts are. There's a strong belief that there are ghosts that are real, but it's an unknown aspect. It's the concept of life after death. It is no different than in a sense. There's no much of a difference to artificial AI and artificial intelligence, where it can talk to you and have what may seem like human emotions. It's just the fact that we emotionally involve ourselves to technology in the sense where we have that fear that it could turn on us, and
Well,
it's not unfounded.
I mean, it's ingrained in us from day one. Like, especially watching, I mean, going as far back as Space Odyssey, 2001 with Hal. I mean, it's just terrifying. I mean, did you ever read the Halo books at all?
I read some of them, yes.
Do you remember? Have you read some of the more recent ones?
No.
So, rampancy is one big thing that goes on with AIs in the Halo universe, and it's basically where they only have, by design, they have a 10-year lifespan.
Right, Cortana is slowly going insane.
Right. And if you go beyond that, then that's kind of a fail safe, if you will. But there was one AI in Halo where they went fully rampant and nothing could stop that.
Right.
They actually had to blow up the facility that she was housed in.
Okay. So,
and it's just at what point, how much control do we trust with these automated systems? Because like I said, I'm not concerned about the program itself going rogue. I'm more concerned about how much access we're giving to people in the outside world. Anything can be hacked. Anything.
But Geoff, if you really want to go there, we can't even trust our own next door neighbors anymore. They might go crazy and shoot shit up.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I had to go talk to my next door neighbor today because Julia threw a horseshoe over the fence. It's like a little rubber horseshoe that Bailey likes. And I walk out to the front door. The first thing I notice is he still has a Christmas wreath up. The Christmas wreath that looks just like ours.
Oh boy.
And I was just like, huh, that's kind of weird. And he opens up the door, still has a Christmas tree up in the entryway. Dear listeners, if you don't know, this is March, the very beginning of March when we're recording this. So it'll probably be late March when you're listening to this. The man still has a Christmas tree up. How
He's
lazy
clearly
do you
insane.
have
He's
to
gonna
be?
get you.
I mean, maybe he just likes Christmas, Jeff. You don't know.
He
his
still had
life.
his Christmas lights in the bushes out too.
Okay, maybe he likes Christmas. Maybe he put them up that early.
I'm
Maybe
just
he
gonna
took them
start
down
calling
after
him Mariah
Christmas,
Carey because
And
Mariah
yeah.
Carey loves fucking Christmas.
But-
She had-
I
What
choose
was
to
it?
believe he put them back up in February because he's just getting ahead of the game.
Yeah,
No,
no,
I-
they're year-round lights, sir.
I
They
choose
are
to believe he's
celebratory lights.
lazy. And the neighbor down right next to him is also lazy because he stapled his Christmas lights to his roof and he can't get them down. He just said, "Fuck it." Our HOA was just like, "Okay, you clearly need to take these down because you can't have these up year round." He's like, "I can't get them down." So I'm just maybe that's what
awesome.
we need robots for the tasks that we're so lazy to do.
Or
Personally,
inept.
I'm excited for robots because it's not necessarily a fear of unknown. It's the unknown that we've never been able to ascertain. What I mean by that is that oceans of this world are still unmapped for the most part. Very.
What do you
very
mean
deep.
unmapped?
He's talking about
Going
under the
down.
sea,
I'm talking
where
like
where Ariel and Sebastian live, and apparently, if we have a robot, it'll find the kingdom of Atlantis.
I'm not talking about the kingdom of Atlantis. I'm just talking about there's depths in the ocean that we have not been able to obtain simply because of pressure and things of that nature. We have an idea of what's down there, but it's also so dark that we really don't know what's in that environment.
Well, there are certain pluses to robotic technology that they're able to accomplish things that we, as fragile little meat sacks, aren't able to take care of. As we get deeper and deeper into the earth and mine different materials, it's becoming more and more dangerous for humans to do so. Where a robot doesn't have to fear things like that, except for possibly a cave-in. It just frees up, like I said, it frees up the loss of human life.
Speaking of human life, have you guys seen the show Altered Carbon yet?
Nope.
I've been wanting to watch it. I keep hearing
All
mixed
right.
reviews.
I won't spoil it for you,
Please don't.
but the general premise is that you can't die.
Okay.
Basically, when you're born, you have an implant that's basically inserted right below your brainstem
Right.
On the back of the
And-
neck, of course.
on the back of the neck, and that device is basically called your stack.
Wasn't
That's
there like a movie about
evil.
this or something similar?
Maybe.
I feel like there was a couple movies that
There
had a
might have
similar
been.
presence.
Um,
That's not even the right word.
it's just
Premise.
So yeah. So, but basically, the idea is that if your body is mortally injured, all they have to do is take your consciousness from your stack and then transfer it into a new body. They call this skinning. You're basically skinning into a new body.
Right. Okay.
The interesting concept about this is that the only way that you can achieve what's known as real death is if your stack is destroyed.
Okay. So
So-
basically, if they kill your implant or break your implant.
Yes, but what gets even more interesting is that if you're rich enough, you can create clones of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You just clone literally that you take the chip, clone the data on it, and
Clone your
No.
body.
I'm talking about cloning your physical body.
Yeah, clone your
Oh,
body and then
gotcha.
have your another chip
and
installed as a
literally
backup.
just stay the same age forever,
Yeah.
effectively.
Yes, because what happens is that you have a backup made of your consciousness,
Right.
made every day at approximately midnight.
Right. So if something happens, you lose a day.
Right. Now, the reason why I'm bringing up all of this is because I thought that the concept was really cool. The show was all right. I didn't really like the main actor that much, but that's beside the point. He was kind of a dick. But I thought, that's just really cool. However, there's kind of two sides of the story, or two sides of the argument that are presented in the show. You have people that are like, "Hey, stacks are cool. Resleeving is no problem. I receive it to a completely different body. I never die. My consciousness never dies. That's cool." Then you have the other side, who's obviously the more religious, that says, "Hey, we should not ever, like, once you die, you die. That's it. And the stack should be destroyed and nothing should happen after that." So I'm kind of curious, like, where do you guys fall in the spectrum? Do you guys
I mean,
think
assuming
it's
that
cool?
assuming that the bodies that you reskin into are not, people that have been removed from the body and then destroyed, that it wouldn't be an issue.
Well, okay, so it's interesting that you mentioned that. Money obviously plays a huge factor into this.
Like, are they growing bodies?
Well, you have to pay for your body. I'm assuming.
Right.
They're
You
not
have to-
necessarily growing. No, they're not growing bodies. The
So
bodies,
you're buying bodies from other people.
right? The bodies are obtained in various. Unfortunately, they're never really quite clear as to where the bodies come from.
Probably
It
some
sounds like
sort of.
bodies aren't sustainable, so it's a competition for bodies.
They
I-
actually keep bodies under cold storage. Okay, let me put it this way: there was people who are sentenced to die.
Right.
Mhm.
If you're sentenced to die,
They destroy your chip.
They don't destroy your chip. They actually put you under ice.
Oh wow.
And basically is they take you out of your stack. They put you in digital storage for many, many, many years until you've served your entire life sentence. Then they will re-sleeve you into another body.
Mhm.
However, it's not your choice.
Okay.
And
So you
it's
could end up
literally,
becoming like a completely different sex and everything else.
yeah, literally bottom of the barrel. For
Okay.
instance, there was one girl, and this is actually for all of society. Like, there's all of society that says, "Hey, if you are murdered or what have you, we'll re-sleeve you, but it won't be necessarily in the body that you choose."
Right, you'll get
Right.
a body. Can't guarantee what you're going to get.
And
But
generally,
my question is, where do the bodies they're sleeving people into come from?
it's people who have been condemned to death. They keep the bodies of the people that are condemned to death. The people that are condemned to death,
But that's not
Are
even
either-
remotely sustainable.
they freeze them.
Oh, okay. So my question is there procreation in this world?
Yes.
So
Oh yes. Oh yes.
okay, obviously it's a Netflix show. There's got to be boobs.
So
Got
let
it.
me put it this way: it's their version of Game of Thrones, but set in a Blade Runner esque.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, so you know what? I'm following the idea, getting the premise here. Obviously, power is money, and you work your many lives to get this power and money in order to be higher in society.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that there are people that are perpetually stuck at the bottom just because of
Yeah,
unfortunate
so-
incidents or whatever.
Like, basically, there was an instance where a little girl was murdered,
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately, the parents couldn't afford a new body, so they stuck her into a 46-year-old lady's body.
That's weird.
And the parents were just like, "How is this possible?" And they're like, "Hey, we guarantee you a sleeve. We can't guarantee you what sleeve you get."
Right.
So it's just one of those things. Like, look at your situation now. Let's say a new body costs bare minimum $20,000.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like getting a new car.
Kind of getting a new car. Is that something, like, if you had the option, would you take advantage of that? Is that something that you would feel
I
comfortable
think it
with?
depends on what the society is like, because the way I look at it is the concept is you have almost unlimited lives, so you could keep redoing things over and get better and do better in your life. But I think the real question, I think the real scary part of an option is there's almost no consequences to that lifestyle, because I essentially could sit there and smoke 1 billion packs a day and drink all day long, and I can just get a new body, and I kill this body and just go into a new one,
Right.
and then live those habits and not necessarily need to do them anymore.
Right. So there's a couple of characters on the show. They're called meths. and basically it's short for Methuselah from the Bible. Basically, they're insanely rich, and they have lived an insanely long lifetime. In fact, one of the guys has lived for almost like 250 years concurrently. So it's one of those things where if we have, it comes down to almost like an ethical / morality question. Like, even though we could live forever, should we?
I think it'd be more like, would we want to? Because
Well-
eventually, I would assume that you've lived all your lives, you've
Right.
done these things, you've been these people.
Well, but
What's
the
the
question
where,
is,
where would you go from there?
like, the limit on the human body living real long is because your brain eventually breaks down.
Right.
If you don't have that degradation of the brain and you can replace everything, wouldn't it be better to have older, more experienced people?
It depends.
To a degree, because when I say that is that once, how much life is too much? Because if you think about it, at that point, if you've experienced everything, you're gonna start to get bored.
Right. And I think the more important, more philosophical ideal is, humans, we are where we are because of death. Because we have a limit on our mortality, we strive to make things better. We strive to do better, either for ourselves or our family or for society in general, depending on what your lofty goals are.
Right.
We are where we are in society because of our ability
Because
to die.
we're driven by a fear of death, is what
Right.
he's saying.
And exactly. And the thing is, though, like when you create something like that society, you don't really have that fear anymore. So what's the drive for success? Where
What's
are
the
we
drive
getting
for
the
innovation?
desire to continue moving on as a society to greater and bigger things?
Yeah.
That's where I'm thinking, like in terms of big picture, because I think about it. People like we revere people like Abraham Lincoln and Socrates and people like those who their great works of philosophy and stuff like that are written in history books. But would we really want someone like Socrates in this day and age right now? Would his teachings and his ideals translate that well into this society? That's kind of what I'm thinking of. Yeah, you have great people and unfortunately we lose them, but are they great people because of their circumstances and the fact that they were mortal, or was it the fact that they were truly gifted?
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it was a very interesting concept that I was watching. It was very it was such an interesting concept just to kind of think about the entire time while I was watching it. I don't know. The show itself is I'd say definitely worth a watch.
Was there any
Um,
I got curious real quick though. Was there was there space travel in this show?
Yeah, so a lot the main character is actually from a completely different world. And in fact, the technology that allows the stacks to be powered is from a
It's
race.
not from Earth.
It's not from Earth. It's a
Okay.
race called the Ancients or something like that.
So it's a different species.
Yeah, but
even
we're not. It's not really made clear like where they come from, or they're just kind of like casually. Oh yeah, like the we got the technology from this.
So
Right.
I'll be honest. This sounds like they did not flesh this idea out well enough.
Why do you say that?
Because like I ask you where the bodies come from, and you're like, oh, nobody really knows, and it's like there's not enough.
I mean, it basically, it's not really explained that well in the show. I mean,
And
they
that's my
basically
point.
they say like the rich people, they have clones made, so that kind of made sense
Like
to me.
physical clones, or
Yeah, physical clones. Like they were.
Okay.
The other piece is that they also have
so if they're cloning,
synthetic bodies.
Okay, so if they can create synthetic bodies, then you now no longer have an issue because the technology is there to create the bodies.
Right.
Like, because that was my concern, is like, you've got so many fucking people on this planet. If every time somebody died, you needed an extra corpse, guess what? The first time somebody dies, you're out of corpses.
Yeah. No, they have the ability to do synthetic clones.
Yeah,
So
I don't know.
that's that piece.
I think the drive to improve yourself is what makes us work as a species, because if you could literally create yourself the perfect body and just switch right into it, what after that, it's like, what now? I mean, I guess if because with space travel, the people who are more wired to be adventurous and more wired to be more socially giving, I think that would help a lot with advancing society and advancing the everything else out there. Because if I could live unlimited lives, I'd probably be out there doing crazy ass shit out in the middle of nowhere in space.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little torn. Well, I think it's really cool. To the extended life is more of my, I guess, personal preference, if you will. Um, Mainly because I think it's more attainable now than it is later, because we have what's known as basically bio organs, essentially, that are uh, scientifically engineered replacements for organs in our bodies. And did you guys ever see Bicentennial Man?
Nope.
Yes, I did.
Okay, I keep throwing out random references like this, but Bicentennial Man was really interesting because he was a robot who converted to human. And he did so by basically creating robotic organs that function just like a human's would.
Right.
Consequently, he helped extend people's lifetimes by another 100 years.
Okay.
Your heart goes out, they just give you a new heart, that type
Right.
of thing. So it comes down to, I guess my question is to you guys, is it ethical to let a person die because they couldn't afford a new organ?
Mm, it's kind of, I mean, it's an interesting thought. I don't think that it would be a question of ethics
You don't think so?
in that case.
Or you think it's more of
Because
a question of business?
no. Because, like, look at it now. If your heart gives out, you're dead.
Right.
Like, you have to, like, you would have to be on a waiting list for a donor heart. Now, at the point where you could have body parts replaced, you would have a significantly longer lifespan. So debt would be less of an issue. Now, interest is always something that makes that awful, but I suppose life is better than death.
Very
So,
true.
I think
So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
ahead.
Okay.
It's-
I think it really depends. I don't think it's a matter of ethics either. I'm with Michael on this one, and the reason why I'm saying that is because right now in our everyday society, you have the option to take flu immunities, so that way you potentially won't get the flu. There's people out there who really don't want to afford the money, or can't afford the money to get sick, and people do unfortunately get sick at work and they're unable to work for however long because of being sick and they're ill. I think it really comes down to unfortunately that's the way the cookie crumbles. I hate saying that, but it's true, because let's say they come out with a cure for AIDS tomorrow. you
right.
know uh they're going to monetize that cure. People are going to need to get paid for that research. People are going to need to be paid for manufacturing that product in order to cure the AIDS. The However many people out there that don't have the ability to pay for that cure, unfortunately, will probably end up dying. uh that's that's the way our society works at this current point in time.
That's the way our society works in America.
Right. So it works that pretty much like that a lot of places. And there are more places out there that have more socialized medicine, where you could that thing that the government pays for that. So it just depends on the society that you live in, and if the society deems it acceptable for you to be able to get these cures and or a replacement heart or whatever. So, if you live in America right now, that let's say a biological, like biochemical, whatever mechanical heart would cost you $100,000. If you don't have the means to pay for it, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
And that's just the way our society is. Now, maybe in Canada, that heart would cost you 25 cents.
I mean, the heart would be subsidized into the taxes that you pay.
Right, exactly, and you end up paying it over time through your lifetime, and you'll probably end up getting ample return. It just depends on how it's brought into society and done. Unfortunately, right now with our society here, it's all about the bank. It's all about the money, and
Right.
if we come up with a cure and we have a way to extend our lives, you're gonna have to pay for it.
No. I think on
that's,
that
I mean,
note,
that's that way right now. If we have really good health insurance, some people don't have such great health insurance. So the people who do have great health insurance, if they have medical conditions, they're able to extend their lives in order to fix those medical conditions. Other people aren't so lucky.
that's true. You guys have any further thoughts before we close this out for the night?
Nope.
Alrighty. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope this has been a good show for you guys. I think it's been pretty good. It was pretty
Not bad.
interesting tonight. Certainly not one of our worst episodes. We're a little distracted by watching the Houston Outlaws lose right now, unfortunately. God damn it. What are they at? 17? No, not 7 consecutive losses right now, unfortunately.
7 consecutive map losses, not round losses.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's not that bad then. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, if you're not already a subscriber of this podcast, you can find us on our website at rantomedia.com. All you can do is hover over listen now or find this podcast as well as our 4 other fine podcasts: the Press Start Gaming Podcast, the Real Reporters, Under Coverage, and Rant On. I apologize if that sounds a little jagged, but it's a struggle to remember, and we've got so many now. So yeah, from all of us here at the Gadget Inspectors, thank you so much for listening and have a great night.